Okay students, meet again on IELTS channel today. Mamika will greet you again on the material of listening for Proficiency Test today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay students, today we will learn together again on the material of listening proficiency test. After on the midterm, you have a test about the TOEFL materials, and now we will discuss about IELTS. The IELTS test here, especially we will learn on the listening part. Before starting into the point of the discussion on the listening part of IELTS, Mamika will deliver the objective of our learning today. What are the objectives of our learnings today? First, students are able to practice some tips, tricks, and scoring in doing the items of the task on IELTS listening section. Secondly, students are able to identify some formats of conversation which are used on the listening part on IELTS. Thirdly, students are able to work with some various formats for each section on listening of IELTS. And finally, students are able to differentiate and evaluate each section on different format of IELTS listening. Now, after you know about our objectives of our study, we will start to tips, tricks, and also scoring introduction on IELTS test. Listening tests on IELTS can be divided into two terms. They are on academic and general training. Although they are different on names, but the test is similar for both of them. Okay, now we are going to take a look on the first one. That is about tips and tricks on doing the IELTS. Okay, firstly, you have to know about what does IELTS stand for. IELTS here stands for International English Language Testing System. Okay, after you know about the abbreviation of the IELTS, and now we are going to know about some tips and tricks in preparing for the IELTS, especially on listening tests. There are 10 tips that you have to do in doing the test, and then Bu Eka will mention one by one. The 10 of them are: 1. To enhance your competency of general listening. Secondly, to hone your vocabulary skill. The third, to focus on special parts of a speech. The fourth, to connect the idea based on situation. The fifth, to pay attention and don't miss. The sixth, to watch out the words connectors. Seventh, to put answers on answer sheet carefully. Eighth, to carefully check for minor errors. The ninth, to move answers appropriately. The last, to fulfill all answers on the answer sheet. Now we are going to know one by one what should you do on its tips. On the first tip, that is to enhance your competency of general listening. What should you do as the examiners or for someone who does the test? Okay, as someone who does the test, you have to do. The objective of IELTS listening here, especially in enhancing your competency of a general listening, of course, the objective of IELTS here to test your listening aptitude or listening competency. Try not to utilize practice tests to improve your score. It is insufficient. For the second tip, to hone your vocabulary skill, what should you do? Especially on the listening part on a section 3, is quite often about instruction. For instance, for the undergraduate studies, for undergraduate students and a mentor discussing a task, become familiar with all the jargon you can about learning at the college. So this way, you will comprehend this segment better. On the third tip, to focus on a special part of speech. What should you do then? Skirt the inquiries and choose which kind of word fits in each hole. Is it a thing, action word, intensifier, or modifier? So, compose N for a thing as a noun, and then V for an action word as a verb. This will assist you with zeroing in on the particular word structure while tuning in. For the fourth tips, to connect the idea based on situation. You will be given an instruction on the audio. For example, like this. Now you will hear a dialogue between blah 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 blah. Or you will hear a lecture on blah 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 blah. So, by using this information, which is not written on the question paper, you should be attentive. We come to number 5. To pay attention and don't miss. What does it mean? On the 5th tip, keep in mind, you will just hear the sound once. Remember, just once, not more than once. So, on the off chance that you didn't hear a few words and ignore a few inquiries, don't be stressed. Leave them clear and spotlight on the real part. Survey these inquiries towards the finish of the part. You will just miss more inquiries and tangle in the account. You should peruse, compose, and listen to all simultaneously. And then, tips number 6, to watch out the words connectors. What should you do? Listen to words connectors, such as however, but, then, finally, and etc. They help you to predict what the speaker will say. Tips number 7, to put answers on an answer sheet carefully. What should you do then? A great deal of undergraduate studies fall into this scenario. When they hear the required data, they take it for the right answer. Tips number 8. To carefully check for minor errors. What does it mean? After each part, you will have 30 seconds to check your answers. It is essential to check spelling, plurals, and also the words structures. Recall that solitary effectively composed answers will pick up focuses. Tips number 9. To note answers appropriately. What does it mean? Toward the finish of the listening task, you will have 10 minutes for moving your answers into the appropriate response sheet. What's more, frequently for the undergraduate studies get confounded in the numeration. As you record your answers, register that they fit with the right number space. All in all, ensure that respond for questions number 7 goes into space number 7. So for question number 8 goes into space number 8. So you have to check them and make sure that your answer is on the right place. Okay, and now we come to the last thing. To fulfill our answer on answer sheet. You will not lose marks for mistaken answers. So regardless of whether you don't have a clue about the appropriate response, it is smarter to compose something in the appropriate responses box. Read those questions again and then guess the answers. Okay, this is the 10 tips. Before you are doing the IELTS test. Because the IELTS test here is different with the TOEFL test. On this kind of test, you are going to do with the 3 skills together, or the 3 skills will be used at the same time. You are going to listen, you are going to read, and also you are going to write something. Okay, we come to scoring now. And scoring on IELTS, as I told you before, the IELTS here stands for International English Language Testing System. So, in the IELTS score consists of the value of each language skill, namely listening, reading, writing, and also speaking. This is on IELTS. But on TOEFLs, we have a math speaking test. But on this test, we will need speaking. But we don't need it on the TOEFL test. Okay. Then the value is averaged at the final value, which is usually referred to as bands. So, bands here, this is the range of score, or the range of a value on IELTS. The scores are in the range from 1 to 9. Okay, Mamika will provide the description for each of the scores on the range on IELTS scores. Start from score 9. What does it mean if you get 9 score? For someone who gets score 9, they are called as expert user. They are considered to have complete, adequate, precise, and fluent in English, especially for English proficiency with a complete understanding. This is for score 9. We come to score 8 now. Someone who had score 8 here can be called as very good users. They are considered to have sufficiently intact language proficiency. And now we come to score 7. For someone who gets score 7 here, they can be called as good users. They are proficient in English proficiency, but sometimes make mistakes in accuracies in certain situations. Number 4, that is for score 6. For someone who gets score 6 here, they can be called as competent user. They can use and understand fairly complex language, especially in situations with which they feel familiar. And now for score 5. If someone who gets score 5 here, they can be called as modest users. They are considered to have partial English skills. They are able to carry out basic communication in their fields. And now we come to score 4. For someone who gets score 4 here, they can be called as limited users. Their basic abilities are considered limited only in understanding and expressing ideas in English. Now for score 3. For someone who gets score 3 here, they can be called as extremely limited users. They convey and understand only general meanings in situations with which they feel familiar. And then continue for score 2. For someone who gets score 2 here, they can be called as intermittent limited users. They have very limited information with English vocabulary. Then for score 1. For someone who gets score 1 here, this means that they don't have basic English skills. And for the last score, for the 0 score, this means that someone here doesn't have accessible abilities. So we cannot try to give them a score because we don't have any abilities to be scored. Okay? This is for 0 score. Scoring has finished. And now we come to the focus on our listening part on IELTS. The recording for the listening section on the listening part of IELTS here will be played for 20 up to 30 minutes to listen to the recording and answer the questions that are being played. Take 10 minutes to transfer the answers to the answer sheet. The number of questions that must be answered is around 38 up to 40 items. The recording is played only once. Listening here is divided into 4 parts. on IELTS. The first part contains a conversation between two speakers about the social or semi-official context. And how about the second part? The second part is a talk by a speaker or kinds of monologue about non-academic situation. On the third part, on a listening of IELTS, is a conversation consisting of up to 4 speakers about academic topics or lecture-related situations. As I mentioned before on the tips, that you have to pay attention on to hone vocabulary. So, in to hone vocabulary, you have to master vocabularies related to the topic of education, especially for university education. And now we come to the fourth part of the listening. On the fourth part, or on the fourth section, is about a lecture on a university style monologue. Okay, this is about the 4 parts of listening, or 4 sections on the listening of IELTS. The listening section here provides a variety of questions but still focuses on listening skills. The listening question format includes multiple choice, short answers, choosing an image that represents the description in the recording, completing sentences, completing forms, completing tables, short summary, notes, flow, labeling, diagrams, where certain parts have been numbered, and matching. Now, we will look at some activities on IELTS listening. What should you do on the activities of the listening of IELTS, and then what are some instructions on the question sheets, and what should you do? Okay, now we are going to know about activity, action, and instruction on the question sheet. Okay, take a look on the first activity. There are 9 activities that you are going to do, and also 9 instructions based on the test item. For the first activity, that is about picking pictures. And your action, from 3 up to 4 pictures, you have to choose the one that best represents or matches what you hear on the recording. And then on the instructions of the question sheet, you will read, circle the appropriate letter. Okay, now we come to the second activity. The second activity here is about multiple choice questions. What should you do? There is a question and a number of answers here. For example, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, and your job is to choose the correct answers. Sometimes the answer will be more than one answer. This is on the second activity. And now we come to the third activity. The third activity on the listening section can be short answer questions. And then the answer, what should you do? You are required to write down the answers in 3 words as instructed. 3 words as instructed. And what you are going to read on the question sheet, the instruction on the question sheet you will read. Complete the notes table. Use no more than 3 words for each answer. This is the third activity. Now the fourth activity. The fourth activity is about sentence completion. What should you do? You have to complete sentences based on what you hear. And then on the question sheet instruction, complete the notes table. Use no more than 3 words for each answer. This is the instruction. No more than 3 words. Remember. The fifth activity on listening of IELTS. Form completion. What should you do? You have to fill in the blanks. And the instruction on the question sheet, complete the form, write no more than 3 words for each answer. We come to the sixth activity. The sixth activity is about chart table completion. What should you do? A table with a few blanks is presented. Fill in what you hear. And the instruction on the question sheet you will read. Complete the chart table. Use no more than 3 words for each answer. We come to the seventh activity. What is the seventh activity? The seventh activity is about true, false, not given thoughts. And what should you do? A statement, namely whether it is true, false, or not stated in the discourse. You have to decide based on what you hear. And then the instruction on the question sheet, you will read, complete the notes table, use no more than 3 words for each answer. So you have to answer by using 3 words, not more than 3 words. And now we come to the eighth activity. The eighth activity is gap fill. What should you do on a gap fill? There are several sentences with a certain words omitted. You have to take the correct word and fill it into the circle. The word is selected from a list, if provided, or from what you hear. And then, what should you do, or what should you read on the instruction on the question sheet? On the question sheet, you will read, complete the notes table, use no more than 3 words for each answer. Okay, almost the same with the seventh activity. And now we come to the last activity, the ninth activity. This is about diagram labeling. On the diagram labeling here, what should you do? You have to write a description in 1, 2, 3 words for each part of the image based on what you hear. The instruction on the question sheet, you will read, complete, label the diagram by writing no more than 3 words in the boxes or spaces provided. Okay, students, this is about our learning. And now, after you learned about tips, tricks, and also about some formats on the listening section, now Mamika will give you an example for each section, for each format, and also about the activities that you should do on each section. Okay, students, this is my explanation on Introduction to IELTS Listening. On the next meeting, you will practice each section with some listening exercises. Mamika will give you an audio to practice and also do some exercises based on my explanation about the activity and then the action that you have to do and also the instruction on the question sheets. Okay, students, thank you so much for your attention today, and have a nice learning and have a good time. See you again next week on the different material, especially for practice of IELTS listening. Thank you, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.